I got a fever, and the only prescription is more comics. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome back to the underground laboratory where we create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity, and sometimes we create comics. So we are back with another update from way back when I was doing the 100 Days of Making Comics. If you're not familiar with what the 100 Days of Making Comics is, that's where you spend 30 minutes a day, every day, working on your own personal comic book project. And it was started by this guy. Well, not actually this guy. This is a skeleton barbarian, but the guy who drew this, Kevin Cross, he started this whole thing, and it's kind of taken off, and it's gone quite crazy, and a bunch of people are doing it and everything. And I did it a little while ago. I did it twice actually, and since then I've been trying to keep up that 30 minutes a day, and I've been doing pretty well with it, but I haven't been updating you, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you where I am with another page of 100 days well, another page of the comic. This isn't 100 days anymore. This is just me trying to kind of continue that and keep you guys posted, just in case you're curious on where things are going with my comic, which is this, Young and the Dead. It's a kids versus zombie story. It's kind of like Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. If you think you're into that, you can find these 3 issues at Serkworks.com. But I want to get back to another page of making comics, and yeah, where are we at? I think we're on like page 12 now. Got it penciled out, but I'm going to do some inking, so let's go check it out. All right, so here we go. Inking page 12, I believe, of issue 4 of my comic book, Young and the Dead, No Zombies Allowed. And, you know, I've been showing, basically I've just been kind of showing the inking stages of these, and the reason why I'm not really showing any of the penciling, maybe I should do that in the future, I don't know, but part of it is because when I'm penciling, because I use a light photo blue pencil, as you can tell, a lot of it's really hard to see until it starts to take shape. So it's basically the beginning stages, you're not going to be able to see a lot as far as what the camera's picking up and everything. And I choose to just kind of record the inking stage, because obviously it's when things kind of start to pop and you can see what's happening. And the other reason is I don't want just to film every stage of the process, because it would just be massive amounts of filming and you know, and again, I guess I could just film the penciling and not film the inking, but I just think this is the way to do it. I know some of you guys want to see the penciling come together, but at least for now I'm going to probably continue doing it this way. But as far as this scene goes, we're in sort of a pretty big action scene. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I structure action and everything. One of the things that I tend to do now, you can't tell because you don't have right now you don't have a comparison to some of the other pages, but usually, as far as this story goes, and in other comics I've done it differently in the past, but as far as this story goes, if you look at the panels the way I have them, they're kind of off kilter and tilted and everything like that, and that's not the way it is through the whole book. Basically, most of the book is your standard sort of 9-panel grid, and when I say 9-panel, I don't mean there's always 9 panels on every page. You can kind of break that down how you want. You know, you could kind of start with 9 panels, and then you can combine panels, and most of it's pretty square. Sometimes I'll break borders a little bit if I want sort of a big, like, establishing shot and thing like that. It'll bleed off the edges, but most of it stays confined to just your basic rectangular structure. I don't want to get too crazy, because I think when I go into these action scenes, basically anytime, it's usually when you have a zombie scene and the zombies start to attack. And just to give you a little background, if you're not familiar with the story, it's basically kids versus zombies. So it takes place in the 80s. There's a bunch of kids, and they end up in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. So usually, before the zombies show up, and it's a little more structured, and then I just want to give the impression, once you get in these action scenes, that everything is kind of thrown off and going crazy and everything. And I do like to play around with different kind of borders and different ways to tell stories like that. But I find if you do that too much throughout the whole book, it tends to lose effect when you get into these scenes of action. I remember,
a lot of 90s comics, I mean, it was kind of it seemed, the one thing about the 90s that, I mean, I like and I dislike. I mean, there was a lot of experimentation going on, especially with colors and things, because they were just going crazy with colors, and it was a little gaudy and everything. But the reason why is because they just entered this digital coloring age, and they had all these new tools that they didn't have before. So I think they went a little overboard. And then, you know, after, it's like sometimes when a novice takes on Photoshop and they start working with it, they're going to play around with all of these different filters and things, and a lot of those filters, I'd say just leave them alone unless you really know what you're doing, because it really tends to look bad. I mean, you got to use that stuff sparingly, and I think it took a little while in the 90s for that to kind of settle down and use these really amazing tools that digital coloring allows you to do, and not go too crazy with them. But it was kind of the same thing. It seemed like along with that came with, oh, we can do these really cool, you know, action scenes and these crazy borders and these fold out pages and all this stuff. And I did like that kind of stuff. I mean, I look back at some of that stuff and some of the action scenes, I'm like, wow, that's really cool what they did there and everything. But a lot of times it wasn't even just the action scenes. It was any scene where they just went crazy with these borders and everything. And I think, again, I think that takes away from some of the impact that you get when you actually wait until the right moment to choose to, you know, add some really cool panels. And, you know, again, I'm not breaking the mold or doing anything crazy. I'm just kind of, you know, tilting things and kind of making you a little disoriented and things when this stuff happens, just to get that idea across. So that's one thing that I tend to do in my action scenes. So I don't know. You guys have any tricks up your sleeve, or when you're approaching action, anything in particular you do? I'm kind of curious. So. But as far as the story goes and everything, like I said, it takes place in the 80s, so I throughout the whole thing, even from the beginning, I wanted to have the scene in the arcade, and that's kind of where we are now, where the kids are sort of in the arcade using some of the you know, you could see, you can't see it's off screen now, but one of my characters, Ox, is, you know, she takes like a skee ball and she uses that as a weapon. So there's various kind of things. The kids basically use a lot of what's around them wherever they happen to be as weapons and things like that. So there's a lot of that in this scene, and I like to throw in a lot of nostalgia. I actually just got back from seeing the new version of It, and man, I was really impressed. And I heard, you know, because the book was written a while ago, and because there's basically the way, if you're not familiar with the novel, I won't go into any spoilers or anything other than part of it takes place when these kids are kids, and then the rest when they're adults. And because there's a 30-year time period from when the creature It appears and when he comes back. When it was originally written, the kids were, I think it was around the late 50s or 60s, and then it went into the 90s or the late 80s or whatever. So to keep everything current for when they kind of, you know, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. I mean, most people know that they are doing this in 2 parts, and so we'll go into a sequel where the kids have grown up and It returns and everything. But they wanted to have that a little more modern time, so they brought it into the 80s. And I was a little concerned, as much as I love 80s nostalgia, and I love like Stranger Things, and my book has a lot of 80s nostalgia. I was a little concerned that they'd play too much on that in the movie, and not so much. They kind of kept the time frame. They said exactly when the time frame was, but they didn't play it up too much, which I think was good, because like I went to see the movie with my dad and my brother, and obviously my dad's a big fan of the book, and he liked it because of the time period was closer to when he was a kid. This one's a little closer to when I was a kid, so I didn't know if it would take too much away from like my dad's experience. But I think they did a good job. It's kind of, you know what time it is, and there are some references to that time, but they didn't go into this nostalgia real deep. So I think it plays, at least for this, you know, version. I think they did a really good job in that. Although, like I said, I do like the old nostalgia, and there's plenty of that in my book. And again, if I'm also looking forward to the new Stranger Things, where they really play up that hard too. But it was nice. I think it was a nice thing. But I would definitely recommend seeing it if you haven't. So anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because that's fresh in my mind. And yeah, I'm sort of wrapping up. I'm sorry if some of it was a little off screen there. But yeah, so this is, you know, I'm really liking this scene, and it's going to set up for some more action, and you'll see that later when we get to the next page, which would be 13, I think.
All right, there you go, page 12. So we are definitely way more than halfway done, and that is a good thing. But I'm going to keep cruising on this, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on another page, and hopefully I will update you on that one as well when it's done. You can also check me out on Instagram at Serkworks. Sometimes I post pages there. But I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me here in the Art Lab. There's a lot of other great content on the channel, so click that subscribe button and you won't miss a thing. If you're an aspiring evil genius, visit Serkworks.com for all your mad science supply needs. And if you want to contact me, hit me up in the comments section or follow me on social media. I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you then.